as it is written in the book of the words of the prophet Isaiah, the voice of one crying out in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord, make his path straight. Every valley shall be filled, and every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough ways made smooth, and all flesh shall see the salvation of God. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
The second Sunday of Advent calls us to change. The first word of the Gospel is always this invitation, this imperative to change. Repentance, in Greek, metanoia, turn your life around, you're going in the wrong direction, change your mind, change your heart, change your lifestyle. Of course, in one way, change is inevitable, inescapable. It seems that the only thing that is permanent in life is change. You cannot step into the same river twice, says Zeno. Everything is flux, says Heraclitus. All beings are characterized by impermanence, flow, change, the Buddha tells us. But this is not the kind of change that our Advent reading calls us to. The Gospel calls us to grace-fueled, resolute, active change. Turn around, change your heart, change your life. Like John the Baptist, we are waiting in the wilderness for the word of the Lord to come to us, to burst upon the scene, to rescue us from darkness, to send us out on mission. John hears this word and acts on it. That is why he's in the wilderness to begin with. And now this same word sends him out to proclaim a message of repentance, to turn away from sin, to open ourselves to God's renovating grace, to be plunged into the new beginning God holds out for each of us every Advent, to let go and let God change us, to let God make our twisted, crooked ways straight, to level out the mountains of our resistance to the inbreaking of God in our lives, to fill in our lowest levels, the valleys of our response to the action of God in our lives. God is coming to us. Are we ready? Not without wilderness, not without repentance, not without divine renovation, to borrow Father Malin's phrase in his book of the same name. But lest we think this is all work and no play, our psalm reminds us of our mouth filled with laughter, our tongue with shouts of joy, and that even when we sow in tears, we will reap in joy. Likewise, the first reading tells us to take off the garment of your sorrow and affliction and put on forever the beauty of the glory of God, to let ourselves be beautiful, shining with God's glory. And so repentance is not all doom and gloom, kicking ourselves in the butt, groveling before God, lamenting the error of our ways, although it's sometimes that. Repentance is also a turning toward joy, a returning to the fullness of life. Human life restored, elevated, brought back to itself with an excess of grace. With confidence that God will complete the good work He has begun in our lives, as St. Paul says in our second reading. God's vision for us, Paul continues, is that that your love may overflow more and more with knowledge and full insight to help you determine what is best. That line just blew me away. God calls us to be loving knowers and discerners. On the other side of the joy of repentance, love, knowledge, and discernment are intimately connected, are intimately woven together. And this is how all flesh shall see the salvation of God.